thank you very much for coming this evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is actually a meeting of the Budget Committee with the Public Safety Committee, members of the public, Board of Selectmen, also invited, and it's great attendance, and thank you. We have two members of the Sheriff's Office here to participate in this discussion. It's going to be kind of informal, but we are recording this live, so be on your best behavior and go instantly into everybody's living room. I was going to go around the room, but I recognize a lot of faces, and I think what we'll do, so I've got a pretty good attendance here, but if you do go to the microphone, and if you're sitting in the audience in one of those chairs, I would ask that you do have to go to the mic if you want to offer some comments so that we can get a good audio of this. I think without further ado, we'll refer to Major Tom Barron, who has a short PowerPoint on some stats from the county and crime. And just remember that this discussion tonight is Waterboro-centric. We're not here to talk about county-wide law enforcement and the politics involved with that. So I think everybody's gotten that message, and that would be good. We really need to talk about whether or not taxpayers in the town of Waterboro want to spend another considerable sum of money for a second 40-hour shift deputy here. So that's the purpose of the meeting tonight. I'll allow members of the Budget Committee here to jump in as they see fit, and I'll act as an informal moderator here, but other than that, I think we can get started. I do see one hand up in the back.
Could the Budget Committee introduce themselves? There's two people I don't know at all.
All right, in that case, why don't we go around the room, and if you're in the audience, holler it out good, and those mics hanging from the ceiling will probably pick up your name. So let's start down here with Rich.
Richard Briganti, I live here in Waterboro, been here since 2008.
And my name is Lisa Crocker. I also live here in Waterboro.
Gary Lamb, Town Administrator.
Donna Beretti, I've been here in Waterboro since 1989.
Chief Deputy Tom Barron.
Deputy Sean Sanborn.
Ted Doyle, Public Safety Committee.
Bridget.
Bridget McCallum, Waterboro reporter.
Ron Ade, I'm with the Public Safety Committee also.
I'm Andrew Doyle, the Public Safety Committee.
Paul Carey, Security Officer for Lake Arrowhead.
And Carol Carey,
And Carol.
sidekick.
John Gale, Selectman.
Tammy Wells, Journal Tribune.
Tammy Gerard, Selectman.
Mark Brilliant, Lake Arrowhead, been here 17 years.
Paul Tibbett, North Bay Lake, and I've been here 45 years.
Dwayne Woodson, Selectman.
Tim Neal, Zoning Board of Appeals.
Jack Siri, Waterboro.
Julie Giles, Deputy Treasurer, Town of Waterboro.
Dave Lowe, IT Manager, Video Technician.
So, good attendance, thank you very much. And without further ado, I think we'll turn it over to Tom and do a PowerPoint and in the lights here.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation tonight. And what I thought I would do is just kind of brief presentation of some of the things that are happening within Waterboro. Just want to share this with you so that I think it might provoke some more questions for later.
You can go to there if you'd rather. It's up to you.
If we could go to the next slide. We're proud to show this picture. Maybe Deputy Sanborn is getting red in the face. But on January 15th, Deputy Sanborn was given the Sustained Superior Performance Award at the award ceremony at the Sheriff's Office. This award is given by the Sheriff for duly noted work throughout the year. It's performance with quality, and it's sustained, meaning that it's well put forth effort on a daily basis. And when I and the Major, the Patrol Commander, look at the work that Sean does, we commend him for that diligence in getting the job done and doing it to the best of his ability and being professional. So we congratulate him on that. The next slide. We also recognize the town of Waterboro for 16 years of participating in the contract deputy program. This is a proactive response by the town of Waterboro that you were committed long ago to looking at your public safety issues. And as you know, and as you've seen Deputy Sanborn in and around the community and doing various things, the contract deputy enhances the community policing, and that is, it's the partnership between the community and Deputy Sanborn, the Sheriff's Office, in working together to address the problems. Deputy Sanborn sees an issue and then addresses it and works with the community to find solutions. So the contract deputy program is highly valued. And I think that as we continue on and look at some other things here, I think you'll find that the contract deputy program does a lot for the community. So these are the call for services for 2015. Total calls for service, that includes dispatched calls, somebody calling 911, Sanford Communication Center, and Deputy Sanborn and other deputies in Waterboro conducting self-initiated activities. The total calls for service was 4,795. 2,651 of those were people calling. 2,144 were self-initiated activities. That's activities where Deputy Sanborn sees something suspicious, or a zone deputy saw something suspicious in Waterboro or some other type of activity and makes some kind of action that takes place to create that call. Next slide. When we look at self-initiated activity, I actually broke it out so that you could see what Sean Sanborn's activities are and what a zone deputy's activities are. And you can see that 656 self-initiated calls is what Deputy Sanborn initiated. That's 40 hours a week. The other part of that pie chart is zone patrol, which, if we look at what a zone patrol would cover, would be 128 hours in a week's time period. So his self-initiated activity, considering the hours, is a lot there. Next slide. So what is the trend that's happening for calls for service? And this is for dispatched calls for service. This is, again, when somebody calls on a telephone and is asking to have a deputy respond. The first is going back to 2013, at the far left-hand side, 2013. That was 3,167 dispatch calls for service. In 2014, it was 2,631 dispatch calls. And then lastly, just this last year in 2015, it was 2,651 calls for service. Go on to the next slide. So what I did is gave you a snapshot of some calls for service that show kind of what's happening, or at least what happened last year. So for the total year, there was 106 animal complaints. We responded to 205 business or residential alarms. There was 239 motor vehicle stops. We responded to 36 burglaries reported here in Waterboro. Disturbance calls, 107. Domestic violence calls, 72. Emotionally disturbed persons, 54. Motor vehicle crashes, both personal injury and property, 272. And motor vehicle stops, 1,032. So I got to go back. Complaints of motor vehicle, when the top third one there, 239. That's complaints of a motorist speeding, operating erratically. That's those type of calls. Then when we go down to motor vehicle stops, there was 1,032 vehicle stops. Suspicious activities was 194. Next slide. So I also looked at what's happening when we do respond to a call, average time on scene. And with our computer system in the database, we're able to extract a lot of information, and this is one that I thought was interesting. So average time on scene and responding to some of the calls that we see here is 19 minutes, or almost 20 minutes. It would be an average call that a deputy would, or Deputy Sanborn or his own deputy would be on average. And it's pretty small, but I broke it down a little bit further. Roughly, we averaged about 48 minutes on a burglary call. That's the investigation of it. The next block is drug instances, and that's 42 minutes. Emotionally disturbed person, handling that call roughly on average is 34 minutes. A runaway juvenile, 39 minutes. Medical emergencies being on scene for on an average of 33 minutes. Motor vehicle crashes involving personal injury, 47 minutes. Sudden death investigations, 90 minutes, an hour and a half. A terrorizing or threatening complaint, 29 minutes. And the welfare check of children, roughly about 24 minutes. And these are averages. And you can see that time on call has increased from 2013 to 2015. And I bring this up because a lot of things are complex in what we handle. And there's an investigation I know that Deputy Sanborn's handling right now, and it has to do with elderly fraud. So this case is time consuming. He's had to do some research, contact some other agencies. So when we answer a call, yes, we're on scene, for example, at a burglary for 48 minutes. But we also need to take into consideration what goes next. If there's evidence at a burglary scene, it's collected, it's brought to the station for the evidence technician to either get fingerprints from it or send it off to the lab. Takes time then also to do the report and also follow up with witnesses and that type of thing. So just in a burglary case, you're looking at not just 48 minutes on average, you're looking at a lot more time. And I think it's important because with law enforcement, there's a lot of things going on. Drug investigations, for example. These type of things take time to follow up on, and as deputies, we have a very short staff of detectives. So therefore, the deputies are required to do a lot of the work themselves and to follow the case from beginning to end. Now, on big cases, like the home invasion case that took place here not long ago, 5 to 6 deputies from the sheriff's office assisted in that case and followed up so that we can present this case to the grand jury coming up very shortly. So when we look at Deputy Sanborn's work, we're looking at a lot of time. And that's why I thought that this slide was very important to show. And also it's important to note that he comes with a support team. Detectives and other deputies, when major events happen here in Waterboro, we respond as well. And in the home invasion case, I responded and actually took one of the persons into custody myself. So there's a package. We're a team here at the York County Sheriff's Office, and I just wanted to stress that. Next slide. So I really wanted to show you, this is the time and coverage for hours for a year. And it's pretty small print there, but when you take a look at what 40 hours gives you for a year, it's 2,080, but that doesn't include the time he has off because he has vacation time included into that. So But the hours that he does work versus the hours that he does not work, which is 6,686 hours in the year total. So I think it goes to show that, you know, there's definitely a lot going on in the town of Waterboro, and quality of life is very, very important. And I think that's what we're talking about here, is public safety and quality of life. And that's where I see the contract deputy becoming very valuable. Sean knows the people, he knows what fits and what does not fit here, and is quick to react, and he goes above and beyond. One of the cases he worked on was that there was what we thought was a dog that had been skinned and put in a dumpster. Deputy Sanborn investigated that case, found out that it was not a dog, it was a coyote, but he went to a specialist to find out with pictures and all of this, and determined that it was a coyote. And at the very end of it, and he put out flyers, and then also at the very end of it, the person came to him that was responsible for that. So you got a lot of in-depth service there, and somebody that really cares and knows about the community. So in the last slide is just the sheriff would be here today himself, but he is out of town, and but was very interested in obviously being here, but could not. So thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Questions of the Budget Committee of Sean or Major Barron? I guess, Sean, I'd like to hear from you on what you think our greatest need is if there was a second shift here.
As far as hours, as far as hours go, or
It could be the schedule throughout, filling in a particular hours during the week, or the criminal activity that you see that you cannot get to. What's your greatest frustration, and how would you fill that hole with another 40-hour shift?
the greatest need in town is to fill the gap. I mean, you saw the second to last slide. We've got 40 hours.
That's fine. No, that's fine. Just go ahead and talk. David, turn it up.
We've got 40 hours covered in a week out of 168. That leaves a big gap. We've got 8,000 people in town, roughly. Wintertime population, 7,600. I just rounded up. In the summertime, I guess I would round up, in my opinion, around 9,000 to 10,000 people, summer population. And you've got one dedicated person. Yeah, it's not Mayberry. I can't expect it to be Andy. You know, it doesn't work that way. You know, you asked about some of my frustrations. Well, I've watched other departments in the town grow because there's been capital improvement plans submitted for these other departments, and I'm glad. I live here. I'm a Waterboro citizen. I've been here since 2004. My family lives here, and I don't begrudge any of that. I'm very glad these departments have grown, especially the fire department. They're my family over there almost as much as the sheriff's office, if not more sometimes. I'm with them more. I want departments like the fire department to be as good as it can be, because I might need them someday. In fact, they've come to my house before, and they've got 24-hour coverage, and they come right out. But I'm talking about the fire department because it's been grown along with the population and needs of this town. On the other side of the coin, you've got police services, and for 16 years, it's been one person, one dedicated person for the town, 40 hours. That would, if you translate that back to the other side of the coin of the fire department, that would be like running the fire department with one engine. No ladder truck, maybe contract out to another town for the ambulance. It would be like that. It would be like minimizing your fire department. And that's the analogy I would use. We're severely lacking over here on the police side. And some of the argument against that would be, well, we've got the sheriff's department, we've got the sheriff's office, they're in place. We have a sheriff's office. Not too long ago, on an evening shift, if I wasn't working, they were running 3 people, a sergeant, 2 deputies, for 11 towns, chief. Mm-hmm. And these guys were burnt crisp. They were, I mean, mentally and physically, you know, real dangerous out there. You know, it's and when I'm not working, you go from minimum to very minimum. An example I would use, I don't want to keep going, but I came out of my house one day last year, the year before last, and my neighbors were in a fight in the middle of the street in front of my house. Father and son out there going round and round in the street. And I sent my wife on her way to go have breakfast with my father-in-law, because that's where we were going. I was dressed up for Sunday breakfast. And instead, I have to babysit these people in front of my house in the street. So I called called dispatch. I said, get a unit over here, because I'm not going to get dressed to deal with it. Get someone over here. I stood there for 45 minutes with the kid sitting there, waiting for him to get a ride out of town. Because the responder, who was the sergeant that day, he had to respond elsewhere in Waterboro for a dead body in a house. So the guy, I think the other deputy came from Cornish to come down to take care of me. So literally, when I'm not working, I have no one covering me. You know, that's one way to think about it. That's been a frustration of mine, just that the police services side of Waterboro has been languished for so long, and I don't think it's anyone's fault, but the point is it needs to be taken care of. It needs to be addressed. Yeah, it's way overdue. One other statistic to throw out there is out of the I don't know where Waterboro ranks out of the top 50 largest towns in Maine, but we're, I don't know, somewhere in the middle of the pack. All of those towns except Gray and Waterboro have police departments. Standish is in there as well. I count Standish as a police department town because they have contracted, I believe, 5.5 contract deputies out of Cumberland County. So they have a police force in place contracted from Cumberland County Sheriff's Office. They have covered themselves. So I count that as a police department. But other than that, we have Waterboro and Gray with just partial coverage. I call it flapping in the breeze. You'll hear that from me once or twice tonight.
How often do you have to call, when you're in uniform, when you're working, how often do you have to call for other deputies to assist you?
It happens quite often. I don't call out of poor habit. I don't call as much as I should because we are accustomed to working alone.
A couple times a week?
At least. Mm-hmm. At least I find myself in a confrontation or, you know, not long ago, I was in a kid's bedroom with my taser up against his back, with him up against the closet door, not resisting arrest. And fortunately, his family was screaming at him to surrender and not attacking me. But that could have been a bad situation.
And is it department policy when you go?
And my backup was one town away. My backup wasn't around the corner. It was far away.
When you go to a domestic, are you supposed to have another officer at least?
Automatically, you're supposed to have 2 people go. But it's a life and death situation, potentially. You have to consider that it probably is. So we can't wait for the other guy to catch up with us and go. If it's a firearms call, we probably do, unless it's an active shooter situation. Mm-hmm. In that situation, we're running into the fire because that's what we do.
Right.
But if it's a domestic, where many police officers nationwide are shot every year during domestic situations, and many people are murdered, we can't wait for the backup. Backup will get there, but we can't always wait for it.
What about the state police? How often?
Can you speak up, please? We're recording for back home.
How often do the state police patrol the area and assist you?
The way it works now is the state police and the sheriff's office, we're 2 agencies. We're supposed to cover the same area, rural York County, which is 14 towns. And we're like, I'm trying to think of that old TV show, the 2 men that live in the apartment that are kind of different, but they kind of have to get along and live with each other. We're kind of like the odd couple, that's it. We're kind of like the odd couple, we're kind of stuck with each other in that neither one of us have enough manpower to cover everything right now. Neither one of us can cover the 14 towns. The sheriff's office would love to cover the 14 towns on our own. So what Sheriff King and before him Sheriff Ouellette did is we used to rotate through the towns. We had it in three zones, A, B, and C zone. And the state police would rotate. We would take 2 zones, they would take 1, and they would rotate around like a clock. If you think of it as like and that's how it went counterclockwise on the map. And we found that there was just some difficulty with that, and especially when they would come into an area where we had contract deputy towns like Waterboro and Arundel. That Waterboro and Arundel were in one zone, so when they would rotate into that, we'd have to fumble around each other's schedules, and there was some philosophical differences, and eventually what Sheriff Ouellette did was he said, we're just going to take these towns, and you guys take these towns. So state police cover Hollis, Dayton, Lyman, Alfred, and Lebanon. Static. That's where they're at. We cover Cornish, Leamington, Limerick, Newfield, Parsonsfield, Acton, Shapley, and Waterboro. That's the sheriff's office's area. So we stay here, and they're in their areas. And you'll see them trekking through town because they have to come through Waterboro to go up to Hollis. And Hollis, trust me, is an interesting town that's busy, having patrolled there. You see them flying up Townhouse Road quite a lot to get up to Hollis, or up 202 and 4. But if they happen to be in the area when there's something nasty going on, or vice versa, if we happen to be passing through and we see someone pulled over by a trooper, or they see us, we always roll up and we'll look at each other, thumbs up, and they'll go, we'll go like that,
right,
and request assistance or not. And a couple of weeks ago, a trooper saw me going somewhere, called me on my cell phone because he's a buddy of mine, called me up and said, "Hey, where are you going?" And I said, "Turn around, join the fun," and we went up together. But it's not all the time because we're static. Like I said, we kind of stay in our own room, so to speak.
Okay. Anything else to add on that aspect, Tom?
Well, you also do have some deputies that live in town besides Sean. There are some deputies that are members of the your sheriff's office, as well as state police. I think there's a state trooper that lives in town as well. So you may see sheriff's cars, you may see state police, and it may be kind of a, it's not what it really looks like. I guess when you're seeing cars go through, they're going to other locations. They're a lot of times not focusing on something that might be happening in Waterboro.
Yeah, when you look at a map, Waterboro, like Limerick, is kind of like road-wise the middle of a spider web. You've got 5, 202, and 4, shooting out in 4 different directions. And if you count Townhouse Road as another main artery, it's not a route, but it's a main artery to get north out of here, and it's a quick one. It's well traveled by all of us that come through, so it's a popular destination for lunch at Subway by a lot of my coworkers as well.
So what hours do you cover? And if we add an extra deputy, another 40 hours, what kind of coverage are we going to get with that?
Right now, I rotate to an over the weekend. Right now, I work over the weekend. I work Friday through Monday. Right now, my current rotation, and pretty soon that's going to rotate around to Tuesday through Friday for a while, and then it rotates and then it flips back. So what you've got me doing is trying to cover everything at once. It's like trying to butter a loaf of bread with a little pat of butter. Just you try to spread me out as much as I can, but in the end, there's not enough. But that's what I currently do. This is more a question for the chief, but I would imagine we would just flip that schedule around or something to that effect so that the other deputy would be opposite me. Maybe overlap on a Friday when it gets nasty around here, and it does. Something to that effect. That would bring us to 80 hours. That would be a step in the right direction. That would be, then you have 80 hours out of 168, so we're headed in the right direction. So like I said, you've got more butter for that loaf of bread, but you're still not there yet, so to speak.
So what about our response times? If we put another deputy on, is that going to give us a better response time? Or can the sheriff's department... What I'm saying is if we have a deputy at the fire station, is that giving us a better response time as opposed to the the county supplying somebody? What's our response time if we had somebody come in here right now?
My office is across the street.
Right.
It's right there. If that's not there, it's a question mark where they're coming from. Like I said, the day I wasn't working, I had the gentleman duking out in front of my house. I waited 45 minutes, and that's what you're looking at. You've got that sometimes, and sometimes, like the time I was on my way home from church with my wife at night with my son in the car, and I ran across a couple of guys in my neighborhood. I was in my personal vehicle, and I saw them, and I said, those two always have marijuana pipes on them and drugs. And I had just gone by a friend of mine that was a zone guy, and he just happened to be pulled over by New Dam Road. He was covering Arundel and Waterboro that night. Just my luck, he was already on the road. I just happened to pass him. I called him. I said, hey, Darren, go up to Victoria Lane. I said, you'll get something from those. And he did. But he just happened to be there. He could have been in Arundel. It's box of chocolates where they're going to be.
Okay.
So when Sean's not on, you get zone coverage. That means it's what I call it's a zone deputy that has a responsibility for a much larger area than Waterboro. So the zone deputy may be covering Acton, Chapley, Newfield, and Waterboro, and that might be that deputy's patrol area. So if they are coming from Chapley to a call in this vicinity, it is going to take a longer response.
And there's no good way.
And by chance, they might be in Waterboro, the response time might be quicker, but that deputy is stretched out to a lot of area. And what is the calls? In the summertime, our activities increase just because of the people here at the lakes and so forth. So the deputies are going from call to call. The zone deputy is more of a reactive deputy because in that case, where they have such a big area, they're responding to calls, versus Sean, a lot of times, since he's right here in Waterboro, he also can do a lot of proactivity, which is very important because that's where the value is in the program, is that he can address things before they get out of hand. He can see them. The zone deputies are going from call to call, and say maybe in Newfield, and then the next call could be someplace else. So
they're not going to be. They're not. The zone guys don't have time to go on these back roads and run radar on these back roads. And even I have to carve time out of. I have to make time to do that. With the amount of the volume I have here. The volume I have in Waterboro is very burdensome. And I joke around a lot of the time about going back to an easier shift because the town is actually very taxing on me.
How often are you able to carve out time to do speed?
Lately, with some of these larger investigations I've had to deal with, not a whole lot.
You go a week without doing any of that?
I've got to.
Because you're so busy.
I try not to. Like I said, I have to carve out time, Gary. Like right now, I've got that kid with me. I say kid. He's a deputy out of the academy. I think of him as a kid because he's so young. But he's excellent. But I tell him. I said, I really want to stop these vehicles. I said, this car speeding coming toward us. I said, we don't have time. We've got stuff we've got to do. We've got priorities. I said, it's killing me. I said, I want to stop that car doing 16 over on Old Alfred, but we have to go interview this. Right now I've got a gross sexual assault investigation I'm dealing with, the elder abuse investigation, and I've got several other smaller things going on at the same time. So I come out in my shift in the morning and I'm like, okay, I got this, and this, and that doesn't count what's going to come in that day because who knows what's going to land on my head that day. And another added burden is, and it's a burden, but it's kind of a compliment too. People will wait. People will wait for me in town. Citizens that have dealt with me before and prefer my service will wait until I come back on duty. So stuff that happens on my days off, I'll get ambushed when I come on, or I find, I've been driving around looking for you, and I'm like, why didn't you call dispatch? Because I don't want to deal with them, and get it to someone else. I wanted to deal with you, and you know, and a lot of the stuff happens when, you know, I was on my days off with my family, and I'm like, okay, you know, and I can't send them away. I can't say, well, that happened a few days ago. Call the guy that was working then. No, I'm handling it then. And
How often does a week go by that you're not able to carve any time out for speed?
I always carve time out for speed.
Weekly? Or
I find time, especially during commuting hours with, especially with the teenagers. I have to go out there and make a dent.
Yeah.
I have to go out and scare the kids. I have to. I hate to put it that way, but if I don't, you know, if I don't make them afraid of me, that's how it is. I want them, when they're driving to school or driving away to school, to think of Deputy Sanborn or whatever name they use for me, because I don't want them to become one with a stone wall or a tree, or, you know. And I tell them every time. I said, I'm giving, and I have a ticket every time policy for the kids, and they know it. And I said, you know, this is to save your life. I want you to grow up and be a productive citizen. So I have to get out. I feel obligated. I have to get out and save these kids. That's how I think of it. And then there's the other problem child streets in town, which are half the back roads. All the 30, you know, the infamous Deering Ridge Road. You know, I think half my tickets last year were Deering Ridge Road. I mean,
even more now that the road is so nice.
Oh yeah. Yes, and unfortunately, a lot of people now have gotten the message. They know that's a ticket-only road, and they know I stop them, and they say, I know what's coming. They're just people trying to get to work. I know that, but they've torn the road up so long that I've had to come down. Mm-hmm. That's been going on for a while. It's made a dent, but it's not like it was. But the answer is, Gary, I take as much time as I can. You know.
Any other questions from the Budget Committee? Ted, Public Safety, and other members of the Public Safety Committee.
I'll address this to both Sean and his boss there. Is it not a true statement that there's I think you alluded to it, there's a false sense of security with the number of police officers, law enforcement officers that live in town and drive their cars through here on a regular basis, that there's enough police activity or presence here that everybody seems to think that everything's fine and dandy.
Yeah, it's the visibility. The visibility that some people perceive is not the reality of what's being patrolled.
I think it's an educational process. I think that the general public needs to be aware that, yeah, there are probably 10 or 12 guys that live here in town, different agencies, but they don't work here. They drive through here. They're not dedicated to the town of Waterboro.
Or if they're working, we call it up north, the Cornish area. The office is in Alfred. They're going to come right through. Like I said, Waterboro is right in the middle. It's like a little nexus of roads. You're going to see them come up Old Alfred Road to go up north, and back and forth down to the office if they have a prisoner or something to that effect. You're going to see patrol cars in town quite a lot. It's just the nature of the roads in town, but it's not the reality. They're not looking for. They're not on their way to deal with anything in town most of the time.
And it's basically Waterboro, if you look at a map, Waterboro is the access, the middle point for the whole county. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter which direction you're going, north, east, southwest, or anything else. I mean, it's got to come through here one way or the other.
And a good example of that is the stolen beer truck. And Deputy Sanborn was the one that located it. Came in as a...
She located me.
Yeah, she located Sean. But that came through Waterboro, a major route, and luckily he was in the right area because that had potential for being a lot more dangerous than it was.
Yeah, she had no idea. She wasn't going anywhere except out of state. The roads just happened to funnel from Portland down to Waterboro. So lucky us in the barn.
The other big thing I see, you know, based on, since we've been tasked by the selectmen to look into this subject, is that the response time when Sean isn't at work, even if Sean is working here in town, if something happens at the other end of town and somebody else needs to get somewhere, I mean, until he's done tied up, average of 20 minutes per call, the other guy that comes or person, you know, wherever they are, could be in Cornish, could be in Arundel. That's 40 to 45 minutes. And that's without all the traffic in the way.
Yeah, if I'm tied up on a domestic violence incident or an OUI, both of those are extremely time consuming. It's not a matter of throwing them in the car and taking them to jail. You know, you've got to follow up with the witnesses. There's a certain protocol you have to follow, mandated by the courts, and it really takes you off the road. I had an arrestee tell me that I had him for OUI. He said, "Boy, this sure takes a lot of time, huh?" I said, "Yeah, it does." When I'm tied up with that, the other guys have to come down here and deal with Waterboro while I'm gone.
So what's the time frame in your working world of when you know that this next call that comes in, you're busy on a call right now. When do you tell them to call dispatch? Or when do you tell dispatch you're not available? Is it 30 minutes? Or just being on another call, you would say that you're unavailable?
I tell them hold it, and I'll get. It depends on what the call is.
Right.
You've got to triage the calls. You know, if I'm in the middle of a business check and I don't know, a domestic comes in, obviously I drop that immediately and go to that. You know, if I'm at a domestic and they say, hey, there's a motor vehicle all over the road coming toward Waterboro, I said, call someone else that can deal with it. I'm not going to leave this for that. You know.
And when things are so busy that the SO doesn't have somebody, is the state police called for, let's say, that vehicle all over the road? Do they help when those situations arise?
They do. We try to work together when they will call us as well.
Yep.
And we try to work together in that way. One of the downsides to us working together with the state police is different radio frequencies. The state police has gone to a new system, and it makes it very hard for us and for them to communicate by radio by one another. And so Deputy Sanborn had commented that the trooper called them by cell phone, and more than by not, that is how it happens, is that they're contacting each other by cell phone versus
if we know each other,
a radio. So that's a downfall that I don't know how it can be changed because the state has invested a lot of money into their radio system.
Statewide car-to-car is gone?
It's there, but it's not easy for them to change their frequency in their cruiser radio because when they do it, they then lock out their primary frequency and their dispatch may not be able to get a hold of it.
It's kind of the same with us. If you know there's a major incident going on, then you might switch up to statewide car-to-car, so you're all on the same channel if you know what's going on. But something impromptu like a car all over the road, it's going to go realistically from me if I'm out of position to my dispatch, and then it translates again from our dispatch to their dispatch, and then it goes back down to one of the troopers, and all this time is going by because it's like sitting in a circle and talking in each other's ear, and you have to write it down.
Yeah, that's not actually going to change with another person being on, because that person isn't going to be on at the same time that you're on duty. You're going to be switching out.
Oh, you mean at shift change or something like that?
Right.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
that can complicate it as well.
Right, because like you said, you're working Friday through Tuesday, and then the other person would end up working from Tuesday through Friday. So during that time frame that you're responding to a call and something else happens, that's all still going to remain the same.
We're not going to be doubled up.
Right.
This.
Right.
It'll be one day that there could be potential overlap.
Okay.
Because you've got the 240 hours, but you got 7 days to work with.
So if the town wanted to have double shifts on the weekend, do we have that flexibility to plan that out? Periodically schedule that?
Yeah. So there was a a comment asked about, when would the person work? I mean, we can, data is in our system. Everything we do is tracked. Every time a deputy signs off on a call, every time this takes, whatever activity takes place, we also know by volume of calls when they come in, dispatch calls, so when people are calling 911. So we have a great ability to look at the data and say, your biggest calls for service are during these hours. This is when you get the most calls. This is the day a week that you also get more calls. So what I would suggest is when, if we get to a point where we look at and put on a second deputy, we look at where's the biggest need, because that's where you should. And conceivably, it could be 2 deputies working at the same time because that's the greatest need. But I think you need to look at what the data is showing, and there is flexibility.
Wasn't that a Tuesday or a Wednesday rather
It was
than a weekend?
It was.
Really?
Sometimes we find a Monday night or a Tuesday night is busier than a Saturday night. Just how it plays out. But, go ahead.
But do you have anything else?
Not right off the top of my head, no.
Okay. Other members of the Public Safety Committee, any comments or questions?
So I'm Andrew Doyle from the Public Safety Committee. I just want to start by commending Deputy Sanborn for his service to the town. I really think we've made it this far on a single deputy because that deputy is Sean. This probably would have come ahead sooner. We'd be lucky to get another Sean, but I don't think that's likely to happen. I think one thing that the chief mentioned that's really important is the opportunity to be proactive, which is something that we have with Sean because he's part of the community. He knows what's going on. He knows where the trouble's at. Particularly with drugs being one of the bigger problems, not just for Waterboro, the whole state, the whole East Coast really right now. The opportunity to be proactive, I think, is particularly important. So I think that's something that we gain from having another deputy versus just rural coverage. I just wanted to put that out there. I really think there's a lot to be gained from it. If you look at towns that have similar call volumes to what we deal with in Waterboro, they typically have several contract deputies or their own police force. We've really gotten by because Sean's probably too dedicated. Probably no more sending me that he's let us get this far. So I'm really glad we're having this conversation because we're going to consider this going forward. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have 4 selectmen in the audience. Any comments from the board of selectmen? Gordon, you can speak right from there with that microphone, yeah?
Yeah, I've been making some notes here. I'm Gordon Littlefield. I'm on the Board of Selectmen, the Vice Chair. I'm also the liaison with the Public Safety Committee, and I want to echo my sentiments that they've done an awful lot of work on this and their research and going to other towns and looking into this. By way of background, I'm a retired deputy chief from Sanford Police Department, and a lot of the analysis and statistical compilations and so forth are what the chief deputy from the York County Sheriff's Office has been speaking about as things that I'm well familiar with. I'm currently employed by the Sheriff's Department as well in their civil deputy division. But I was just making some notes here as I was listening to some of the conversation that took place, and with respect to the response time, that is so difficult to gauge because number one that we touched on is where is the deputy at the time that he gets the call? Secondly, what type of activity is that deputy engaged in at the time that he gets the call? Those 2 factors are going to weigh heavily on the time, and that time is a poor gauge anyway. We've become impatient as citizens because we watch television where they get a call and the police respond within seconds, it seems, and by the end of the 30 minutes they've got the case solved. Well, that's all well and good for television, but in real life it just absolutely does not happen that way. another thing that I think that the chief deputy touched on ever so briefly when he mentioned court. That is a significant thief of an officer's time. Otherwise, what he does on the road is all for naught if he doesn't follow up through the whole prosecution process. And when we say court, we failed to take into consideration all the pretrial hearings that has to take place, his conferences with the district attorney's office, because they're going to review reports, and there's constant back and forth there. There's all the paperwork that goes with that, answering calls from the attorneys and stuff that want to know this and that, and and it doesn't just fall on what you know is the court system. There are other things like DMV hearings that they have to go to on the OUIs, so that because if the officer doesn't show up, the hearing examiner won't necessarily suspend the license, so we're still dealing with that same individual out on the road. So he's got to make the time available to go to these DMV hearings, and they're traditionally held either in Kennebunk or Saco. Kennebunk now. And so and there's all the preparation you have for that, because they operate under a different set of rules as far as what's admissible and what isn't. Another aspect that takes away from the time of an officer, I guess what I'm getting at is that you say he's available 40 hours a week for Waterboro. There isn't. That's a misnomer in itself. Because one of the other aspects that you need to consider is training. He has state mandated ongoing training that he needs to complete in order to maintain his certification, or his certificate of eligibility, which in a sense is his license to practice law enforcement in Maine. That has to be done. He has to keep current with different certifications other than that, like Intoxilizer, so that he can use that machine. The radar, he has to be certified in that at different intervals depending on when he's done it. I think radar is every 3 years or every 2 years now, and Intoxilizers every couple of years. You have to have that done. Excuse me?
Weapons training.
Yeah, there's annual weapons training for police liability, plus your competency in that. So all these things are detractors from time that he could actually spend here. Now you get some flexibility by having another deputy here, because you don't necessarily have them doing those things at the same time. And when they're working together, they can schedule it so that he can say, well, geez, I've got this major trial coming up, either whether it be in district court, superior court, or federal court in Portland. There's a lot of testimony that goes on there in a number of these career criminal cases. So you really need to look at that aspect of it. Another thing that, and I point this out just as for informational purposes only, is that the Bureau of Justice, United States Department of Justice, and their Bureau of Justice statistics will say that the officers per 1,000 of population should be 2.5. So roughly 2.5 police officers for every 1,000. So if we're going to say, just on the conservative side, that Waterboro has 7,000 people, then you do the math. 2.5 times that 7, but you cannot look at that figure alone and say that that's the benchmark, because you got to take into consideration the calls for service, the activity level, those other things that go on, because those are factors that will reduce that 2.5 number. But that's a national statistic that's compiled by the Department of Justice. And you can find that, I just queried that right now on the Department of Justice, because they have, you just have to input ratio of police to population, and you can get those figures. And a lot of that's compiled through your uniform code of UCR statistics. And the last thing that was mentioned, there are a lot of police officers that live in town that go through here. I can tell you that there are Biddeford police officers that live in town. I can tell you where. Saco police officers, and I'm not saying this singular. Sanford, at one time we had like 9 officers. My brother-in-law, who was on Sanford PD, lives there. I do. Mike Thornton, Tipper, if you happen to know him, up in Arrowhead. Troy Braley, who's a coach for basketball, youth basketball. He lives in Waterboro. So, I mean, you've got all these other police entities here, besides the state police and the sheriff's office, that lend credence to that false sense of security that there's this, somehow, this law enforcement umbrella that's enveloping everyone and, contributing to the overall safety of the community, when that just necessarily isn't true. And I probably could go on and on and on, but I'm not going to bore you anymore with statistics and data like that, because I probably could with charts and graphs. But I'm going to thank you right now for just listening to me. I appreciate it.
Any other comments from? Yes, please just go to the mic.
I'll go back to all of them.
Okay.
I'll do my best.
Take your time.
My name is Paul Carey. I'm a Lake Arrowhead security officer. I'm a retired detective sergeant, 30 years. And my wife's a retired correction officer. We love Maine and Lake Arrowhead. And our daughter runs the Lowe's convenience stores, best pieces in town. Exactly. But I've been a security officer for about 8 years at Lake Arrowhead. And I'm proud to say for 3 or 4 years I was a member of the Public Safety Committee myself. At that time the members were Dave Chevette, Sergeant Chevette, Tammy Jo Gerard, and God bless his soul, Bruce Woodson. And I enjoyed every minute of it, and I learned a lot. It was a great experience, and I learned a lot about the Waterboro public safety needs. As security officer, I've gotten to know Deputy Sanborn. He is a true professional and asset to the Sheriff's Office. The calls I receive for service from Lake Arrowhead residents sometimes have to be referred to the Sheriff's Office, as they are crimes, and I'm not a law enforcement person here. In the last few years, I have noticed the constant increase in calls. I have to refer to the Waterboro contract deputy, usually Deputy Sanborn. Residents complain to me for the long waiting periods for a deputy to arrive. And it's just too many calls for one deputy. It's really ridiculous. I try to filter as many calls as I can so the deputy does not have to be called. But not being a law enforcement officer, the filtering I do has to be limited because it's the crimes I can't take care of myself. My fear is sooner or later, slow response could be harmful to a citizen or a deputy. Deputy Sanborn knows the people he should know in Lake Arrowhead, but when he's off, there is no continuity, and things slip through the cracks, and we all lose. Bottom line is we are desperately in need of another deputy. The public safety called it right, and I congratulate you all for trying to get another deputy in. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Comments from other folks? Tammy Jo.
Good evening. So I too, front there. So when I was on the Public Safety Committee for a number of years, and I'm a selectman, and John Gale and I actually interviewed the deputies that were interested in serving as contract deputies for the town of Waterboro, and I think we made a great choice when we opted to go to go with Sean. As a selectman, I think that not only do we need to look at, just do we need another contract deputy or not, I think we also have to look at, there is a dollar that's attached to this. There is a cost. And I think that one of the things that we have to be the most concerned about in town is we want to make sure that our residents here have a good quality of life. And I think that that's probably what I hear from people that live in the community is they want to feel safe when they come home. They want to know that I'm at work and my kids are home and my kids are okay to, go home after school and get off the bus. Or, my elderly parents live in the community and I feel comfortable that they're there. And I think that it's very important that we make sure that our residents feel comfortable in our homes. We have a comprehensive plan that has been the past 5 years. We've spent, quite a sum of money having visioning sessions, having conversations with community members. And I think that the message that has been delivered at a lot of those meetings was that public safety is important to people in the town of Waterboro. And so I want to say that as a selectman and being conscientious of what this would do to the tax base, there would be a cost increase if we were to add another deputy or whatnot. But I think that it's important to the quality of life, which is what people are interested in, that we do add this vital service. I have 27 years of law enforcement experience. I can say that I routinely do work with Sean through my police department. We're always, hey, how about this name? How about that name? Or, I need to find somebody that's in Waterboro. He's my go-to guy that I'm calling up. And he provides a vital service to this community. And as a selectman, I want to say very boldly that I support adding another contract deputy to our town. I think it's important for our residents. I think it's important for the quality of life. And I think it's important for the town as we look at growing, making sure that we have that service that we can provide, not only to the residents, but the businesses that we want to attract to the town. If we have businesses that are looking at Waterboro, they're going to look at what our crime rates are. And if they see a town that isn't well protected, they're going to look elsewhere. We need to be as competitive as we can be in the services that we provide to bring those businesses in and to start helping with our tax rate by bringing those businesses. So I think not only is it important for the residents, I think it's important for our growth. I think it's important to attract business and to improve our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dwayne?
Dwayne Woodson, Selectman. The only thing that I got to say is I think this needs to go to a referendum question, only to get the most words spoken from the townspeople. This is a tax burden increase. I think you had said $40 at one point.
Well,
here.
based on the information that I got from the tax office here in this building, just rounded off 5,000 property taxpayers in the town. Divide that into this is $21.60 a year per taxpayer.
Okay. God know what you got for property.
Right,
So,
that wouldn't be.
and that's not.
It's about $100,000, little plus or minus of that, with all
Yeah.
the benefits
And
and costs.
90% of our homes are in the ballpark of $150,000 to $200,000 at this point. So that's roughly $40 to $50 addition to your tax bill. So I would rather see 500 to 600 people voting on this in June. If they can't get to the voting day, they can vote absentee. When we go to town meeting, if we've got 40 to 45 people.
Or less.
Or less, yes. Some days we're looking to find 2 more people out on the streets to make them residents or whatever to get the 25 people that we need to open the meeting. And if the fire alarm rings, we haven't got the 25 people. So it's a sad deal, but I feel that it should go to referendum so that we've got the most of the people that are going to say yes or no, that they've got the chance at least. If they've got something scheduled that one day they can at least vote absentee. Thank you.
On?
I'm John Gale, I'm a selectman. We go through a process here. It's come before you as a budget committee and town administrator that in the past it hasn't gotten to the people. Now it's time. I think you've heard it loud and clear here that the people need to be able to vote on this. So I think at this time, the budget committee and the town administrator will get it into the recommended budget, whether it be through, as Dwayne had mentioned, that's fine, but it needs to get to the people now.
Thank you, John. Ma'am? I don't know that you can get through there. Thank you, guys.
Good evening. I am Lucille Gagne. I'm an 84-year-old woman. And all I have to say is I've been here since '86, and I'm very happy where I am. We have no problems, and I like life the way it is now. I do not want or care to have my taxes keep going up and up and up and up. Pay somebody a whole week's salary, plus Blue Cross Blue Shield, plus vacation time, longevity time, whatever. I'm happy the way I am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't mean any bad.
Take a moment here. My name is Ron Oddie. I'm with the Public Safety Committee, and I'm all for the additional deputy. I don't think we could have enough law enforcement in the community personally. However, you know, we've got a lot of input, a lot of information transpired tonight, and certainly in the recent past. And I want to throw something out, if I could, without it being taken the wrong way. We're talking about adding another deputy, and we talked about the coverage and the number of calls that we've had. We talked about cost, some statistics we heard tonight. What I haven't heard addressed, though, is after the fact, after this gets approved, I'm assuming it will in some fashion, and after it's funded, what are our expectations? Just having another deputy drive around? We talked about response time. Obviously, that's not going to change that much, I don't think. So I would like to address it to the Sheriff's Department. If you can just touch on that from your perspective, what can we, as a community, the citizens of the town, what could they expect to see differently? And how, what would be, I don't want to say benefits, but what's the impact they're going to see or feel? And you don't have to go in detail, but there's got to be expectations out there, not only from the citizens, but expectations from yourself. So if you could just address that a little bit, I think it might be helpful.
Well, I think when I had one of the slides up there for self-initiated activity, within a couple of hundred calls or 150 calls, Deputy Sanborn would have had as much self-initiated activities just in 40 hours a week compared to what the zone deputy was doing. So the contract deputy program is, in my analogy, community policing at its best. It's the interaction with the deputy and the community working together to solve problems. Sean can do it for a limited amount of time. When you add on another deputy, you're going to increase your amount of time that you're going to be able to continue to work in, even in programs, doing different things that he's not able to get to right now. So I think when you look at statistics, and then hopefully you're going to see, that double in effect as to self-initiated, proactive response. that's where I see this whole program embellishing itself is that both of those contract deputies are going to be able to look at what needs to be addressed and address it. And, I look at Sean as a police chief here. I really do. I don't want to say that too much because I don't want
You have to pay him.
but I do. I look at it, and that's the way the other contracts I look at as well, is that the personal contact will enhance itself again. You see what you have in Sean, that will enhance itself again, and it's quality. That's quality work with that personal touch. Sean cares about this community. He's a resident of this community. He takes things personal. When there's a burglary in town, Sean he's on it himself. So I think you get that personal contact. You will not get that with a zone deputy, as is they're going from town to town to town. So,
like I said, people wait for me. People wait for me to come on duty because they want that more in-depth service. And I'm going to be blunt. I'll probably be accused of being a fearmonger, but I'm just going to say it anyway. The town's kind of at a fork in the road. The town of Waterboro is at a fork in the road. It has been for quite some time, and has not chosen, or actually it's kind of gone the wrong way, to be honest. Tammy Jo talked about quality of life. If you want quality of life here, if you want it to continue as the population increases and as what I call south of Kittery creeps up this way, because I always joke around. I say this isn't the real world. The real world is south of Kittery. I've lived out in the rest of the U.S. in my younger days, and I came back to Maine for a reason, because it's Maine the way life should be. That is slowly disappearing. You drive further north, you kind of go back in time. You drive south, and you're coming into the real world. And we're in York County, right in the middle of York County, and that's creeping up. I mentioned before, we're way behind. It's a fact. Waterboro is way behind police-wise. We're 2 towns out of the top 50 that have no dedicated police force. And I'm sorry, but the York County Sheriff's Office is not a dedicated police force for the town of Waterboro. It's a crutch. And I make that a little bit better in my 40 hours, but I don't cover all 168. So the town has to decide, is it going to spend money to keep the quality of life? I had a friend of mine a while back say, when I moved to town, I didn't realize there was really no police department here. And I said, yeah, that's the way it is, Stephanie. And, she was kind of disturbed by that. If you drive south on 202, a few towns down the road, drive into a town I won't mention, as you may or may not approach New Hampshire, start looking at the businesses. Some of them quite a few have gates, like fences and gates to keep people out at night, like heavy-duty gates that, you'd have to hook up a real big truck to rip the gates off. And there's a reason for that. That particular town did away with the police department quite some time ago, a couple decades ago now. And back when I was countywide patrol, I detested patrolling that town. It was literally lawless, and remains so to this day. I'm not going to mention the town, but it's just, you can go in that direction, because it's going to happen at some point if you let the population come up. And just a couple of horror stories to strike the fear. In one day we had people from a specific part of Massachusetts come up here and go into 2 different towns and do 2 different home invasions that had to do with drugs. One of them, over in Lyman, escalated into a sexual assault. Maybe that was a coincidence. I don't know if you believe in coincidences, but I thought that was, and I don't know if those have been linked together yet, but I thought that was awfully strange that that happened in the same day. But that was the real world coming up here. That's the real world. It's here. I checked the logs the other day. I came in on Sunday, and I'd asked another zone deputy. I said, "Hey, can you go check this residence because I've got a fugitive that's been wanted since 2014. She's moved back to town. I think she's hiding out in this camp with hardly any heat, but I think she's there because there are wrecked cars out back with Illinois plates or something. Something I just happened to find out. So I checked the log to see if he'd done that. Well, he hadn't been there. One of my locals, one of my gems, had called up and drunk and said, "I've got a warrant for my arrest. Different person. Can you come get me? I'm going to surrender." So it happens. It happens. People will call up and say, "Hey, look, I don't want to. I want to just get this over with, and I'll pay the bail and get out." So it's actually semi-typical. So poor Heath shows up, and the kid's screaming bloody murder, and starts swearing at Heath, and comes at him like he's going to attack him. Heath ends up tasing the would-be surrendering kid, tases him, and at the same time, here comes another guy out of the house screaming at Heath, as if he's going to attack him. So he has to disengage the taser, and now he's trying to arrest this guy, and he's holding off the other guy with the taser, transitioning back and forth, while his backup comes from Alfred. I said, that sounds like a wonderful night. Finally, backup got there, and they were able to keep the other guy away and arrest this guy and get him hauled to jail. And I think they ended up having to put him in 4-point restraints. I won't explain what that is. It's unpleasant. Oh, I don't know. About an hour and a half later, he ends up with an OUI crash down in South Waterboro, and in another fight down there with one of my other gems, we'll call him, in a full-blown fight with this family that has to do with drugs. All in about 2.5 hours, I'd say. And that's what I found in the log. And I called him later. I said, "You had an interesting night." And he said, "You don't even know the half of it." And later on, a DHS worker is talking to me about the second family because they called me to find out about this family because they have kids. They're fighting with our deputies on the middle of the street with kids in the car, apparently. And she said, why didn't the deputy make a DHS referral like right that night? And I said, "Miss, he was in a fight in the street. He's taking care of this guy, taking him to jail." I said, "I don't even know if he had any taser cartridges left from the deal he had before that." I'm sure he intends to make the DHS referral today, but the hospital had already done it. But I said, it's out here. It's the Wild West sometimes. It's here. I could tell horror story after horror story like that, and not all days are like that. Sometimes you go 2 weeks without anything like that, and then it explodes in your face. But it's here, and Waterboro, it can decide to stick its head in the sand and pretend it's Mayberry, which it's not, or it can take responsibility and do something about it. Like I mentioned at the beginning when we opened the meeting, the other departments in this town have been built up accordingly to the population and the needs. And the police services have been ignored, except for me. And that's been argued and fought about over the years, which I frankly find ridiculous, but that's, there it is. You know, if anyone wants to rebut that, I welcome it. But that's my opinion as a citizen here. And,
that's why we're here. We want everybody's opinion. So
when I'm off duty, I don't know where the deputy is when I'm going to call them.
Right.
And sometimes I literally throw a sheriff's ball cap on and grab my gun and get in the car and go deal with something in my neighborhood because it's just, and I rarely put in for it. I just take care of it and go back home.
I think a lot of people know that and appreciate that too. So.
Any other members? Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you. My name's Mark Brilliant, a resident of Lake Arrowhead. Been here 17 years. I want to tell you about my quality of life. Depends what day. I have windows in my house. I look outside. I see what has been going on. And the other days, when there's no traffic over there, if you will, quality of life is really good. I got it luckier than most of you here because Sean Sanborn is my neighbor. And I will say I have personally seen him put on his cap and head off and doing things he probably shouldn't do. He does have a wonderful kid, young boy, and wonderful wife as well. We talked about population growth. Like I said, I have windows in my house. I think it's the type of population that we're getting here, the drugs. It's not the older folks here that are dealing the drugs. It's not. I think what we need to do here is really consider, are we going to be proactive or reactive? It's worth every bit of the $21. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Any other comments from folks here? Yes?
I'll speak from here. Does that mean if you get another sheriff here, we pay for another car, we pay for all its gas, we pay for all the taxes, plus everything else? Is that what it means?
Yes.
And he could take it home at night?
He's on call. If the department needs him, they
So
come
he
up.
has the car at home?
Yes.
No way.
If we have a police department, there would be a rotating vehicle from body to body, but we're a long ways from that. And,
no way.
Well, I think the aspect of having a contract deputy from the sheriff's office, and you folks jump in and correct me if I'm wrong, is that if this person is going to be here, working here, it's also part of a team countywide. And if something really bad goes somewhere, that officer needs a car to hop into and respond. I would love to have 2 officers share a car, but I know that I can't suggest that to these folks because they'll say no because of that very reason for a team concept, countywide coverage. Anything to add or correct there?
You're absolutely right. I mean, you get, with the sheriff's office, you get that team approach from the sheriff's office. And you don't, Sean's a contract deputy, but like I said before, when a major event happens here, you get the whole team. You get the command staff and all that we bring to the table that Waterboro doesn't pay for. You get a lot of people, but you're only billed for Sean.
Accident reconstruction, firearms instructors, and other aspects of the sheriff's office budget are not something we directly pay for. We're in conversations with the commissioners about total dollars. We won't get into that now. We don't need to. But any other, I haven't looked down the line here recently. Any other comments from budget committee members?
Now, other than contract deputies, does the county plan on hiring other deputies?
We would very much like to. We are going to be approaching the commissioners shortly with a plan to add deputies. We're very short in the field right now with zone deputies. We don't have, we got basically 1 detective. We'd like to increase that. We have a lot of crimes happening that need a lot of time and effort put into them that the deputies on the road don't have time for. So we do have need for more deputies.
The other question I had is, in some of your complaints, animal complaints, okay, which to me seems superfluous. That it just, are you answering the dog officer's calls?
Yes and no. Yes and no, and I'll explain that. That coyote murder keeps coming up, and I cringe because it makes it sound like I have time for things like that. I spent time dealing with that mess because hysteria was mounting because that got put on Facebook, and we had literally had the press calling our administration about this dog that was horribly skinned alive, allegedly. It wasn't, a trapper did it, but if it is I triage it. If I'm driving around and dispatch, and they always tell me about the animal complaints. They let me know because people will call into dispatch to get Mr. Andrews. If it is a dog bite or a currently menacing dog that is still out and about, I do not say, yeah, we'll wait for Wade to come out from Newfield to come take care of this pit bull that's currently chasing people or keeping someone in their house or car, because I've had that several times. No, I go take care of the pit bull or other dog that's menacing people. If it's a current public safety concern, I go take care of it. If it's a bite that happened 2 hours ago and the dog's back home, that's all Wade. But if animal is currently marauding, then I go deal with that because I'm not gonna say that's an animal complaint, and then I'll call Wade after and say, hey, we got this dog and you got to follow up with this family, but I took care of it for the moment. So I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I had asked because we have been talking about a new animal control officer, and whether the town needs to pay somebody a decent salary to do this. I think Paul can speak to the fact Lake Arrowhead has a number of barking dog complaints. Megan, who's not here tonight, can speak to it. And we don't get a big response, because there are so many, and to try to answer all these calls. So I'm wondering if that's taking up part of your time, is the fact that you have to answer some of these calls.
No, only if there's a marauding animal, only if
Okay.
someone's in danger. Or if I happen to find a dog and someone says that dog's been running around the neighborhood, I might grab it and look at the tag. If I'm not doing something at the moment, or if I have time and don't have a priority, I will do that. But no, I don't respond as I'm not the ACO, and I don't try to be. I don't want anything to do with it, to be honest.
Jim?
I want you to kind of paint a clear picture for us as far as where the deputy would come from, okay? Let's say we approve it, the town approves it. We find another contract deputy who I assume would come from within, right?
We decide who that is too. People from the town who participate in the interviews.
Right, the people of the town would, but what I'm saying is, now you're down one deputy. Are you replacing that deputy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. You would hire the deputy that you wanted.
Right.
And if that was somebody already, on, then, which most likely it would be, then you would choose that person. We would then hire somebody for replacement for that deputy.
I'm good. Any other comments? Jack?
I'm feeling kind of old because I remember the first conversation we had 16 years ago around the contract deputy. And I forget the gentleman who came from the sheriff's department, and he addressed the folks. And he was being very diplomatic. But basically what he was saying to the town was, you need a police department. You need much more than a contract deputy. That was 16 years ago. I think that's still true. But in the context of our discussion tonight, I see hiring a second contract deputy as an evolutionary process, so that when we get to the place where we're willing to have a department, we will have in place over periods of time a second or a third or a fourth, rather than jumping from here we are to what it's going to cost you to have a whole department. So I see this as part of an evolutionary process, preparing ourselves for the time when a town of 8 or 10,000 is simply going to have a department.
Any other comments? Seeing no hands, I want to thank everybody. Gordon?
I want to touch on a couple of things. I'm so pleased, you can't believe how pleased I am to hear that you're happy in Waterbury.
I am.
I'm really happy about that.
And I'm happy about the neighborhood I'm in too. I'm very happy and I'm very content.
And
I've been here for quite a while.
I would like to see that happiness continue. I have, even though I'm in...
Well, it will if you don't have my taxes go sky high.
But I think that part of that level of happiness is because you have never been at the forefront of some activity that required police intervention.
Yes, I have, because my husband, of course he passed away now, was a Lynn police officer in charge of the... I can't even think. See, when you get info, you lose your mind somewhere. My husband worked on the police force in Lynn for years. And he was on he was on photography and fingerprinting, but he also was on Vice.
No, so he probably worked detective division.
So I do know. I know the night my husband came home and said to me, Lucille, I don't like my job anymore. He had picked up a child got hit by a train. You know, I mean, I've seen a lot. I've had some of his people that he arrested come to my house knocking. And I listened to them. And I've had some people come to my house, knock on the door, say, Mrs. Gagner, your husband's a wonderful man. I bought these chocolates for you. I mean, I've gone through all of this. But I say right now, my taxes are high enough the way they are. And I like being where I am. I have a good neighborhood, and everybody around me is nice. And I have no problems where I go. If I go outside, everybody's polite to me, no matter if I'm going to the post office, to Biddeford for shopping, or if I'm going to the dump, they're even nice to me. No matter where I go, they're nice. I have no problem.
And
so,
how do you think that's maintained, really? What keeps the proverbial lid on that? What gives
people being nice? If you're nice enough yourself, everybody will be nice to you.
Well, it's a...
It should be.
I guess you're not nice enough.
It should work that way, but you know, the rose-colored glasses, I don't know. And Maine ranks as the 36th largest town in Maine out of 461.
Waterboro does, you mean?
Yeah, just as a point of information. So that came up.
Any other comments? David?
Oh, Lynn, Massachusetts has 189 police officers.
At the present time.
Yeah, just curious.
Okay. Any other Waterboro specific comments? Just to let people know the budget.
Did you ever poke fun at me?
No, not at all.
The Budget Committee appreciates your comments. They'll be taken over the next few weeks here into account whether or not to put in their recommendations to the selectmen, the second deputy. The Public Safety Committee has come out in favor of the second deputy. In my budget as a town administrator, I've done the same thing. The process now is the Budget Committee will make a recommendation to selectmen, and the selectmen make a recommendation to town meeting floor. And the selectmen, per Dwayne's discussion here, can also have conversation about whether or not this should go on a ballot. So stay tuned for more information. Thank you very much for coming, and we appreciate your attendance here. Adjourned at 8:03.
Quarterfinals, just begin.